Good afternoon, everyone. We met for 3 days as the National Executive Committee of the ANC, and our discussions were, we looked at implementation of our resolutions on a renewal of our organization. And as you all know, we're in the process of running BBGMs throughout the country. We're trying to get to the point where regions can go to conferences and the provinces that are outstanding and due for conferences to have their conferences as a matter of urgency. So we've done quite well. We've achieved over 1,400 BBGMs in a fairly short space of time using our new system of membership, which allows the branches to control the system, and it doesn't flow into too many disputes about wrongdoings at another level of the organization. We also looked at fairly in-depth preparations for local government elections. So we will be going to local government elections. Apparently, a date has been announced, but it has not been promulgated as yet, towards the end of October this year. And we are then activating our elections machinery to begin to pull itself together and start working on messages. A baseline research is going to be done. And also looking now at the whole process of candidate selection. And we have implemented the decision to appoint a elections committee, which is led by Kgalema Motlanthe. It's independent of all elected structures. It acts on its own. It will have its own infrastructure. And these are the people who will give the guidelines and how things are to be run for local government elections, with quite a tight understanding of the caliber of person that we would like to see emerging from community-based interventions on who a councillor must be. We also looked at the amendment to Section 25 of the Constitution and spent almost a day discussing mainly what the ANC's views would be on that. As you know, that is a very important matter. It is a parliamentary process, but that doesn't mean that political parties cannot have their own views and discuss those views. We did discuss the implementation of the step-aside resolution and implemented it, confirmed its implementation, and we took into account several reports of the Integrity Commission, which had provided reports for 2020 and none yet for 2020, well, 2 for 2021. So the NEC began by looking at the fact that this is the 25th anniversary of the adoption of the Constitution by the Constituent Assembly, and the genesis of the Constitution in the African claims, as well as the Freedom Charter. And ANC will respect, uphold, and advance our country's Constitution. We were very clear about that in all our discussions. ANC members must live according to the values of social justice, respect for humanity, equality, selfless service, and adherence to the rule of law, commitment to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. Our priorities then for 2021, firstly, to act together with all South Africans to defeat the COVID-19 pandemic. We're also engaging in an international campaign which looks at vaccine imperialism and working with organizations, and at the government level, I suppose government is working with other countries to try and get a waiver to the problems that disallow countries from, in fact, producing their own vaccines. Thirdly, to forge ahead with the fundamental renewal of the ANC in line with its core mandate and values, to strengthen developmental and participatory local government and achieve a decisive win in the upcoming local government election. We're very aware of the difficulties we have at local government level. We're not hiding anything under a bush. We're looking at what to do and how to do it, and to build a better world and a better Africa. So we also wanted to say to all of you that we want to defeat COVID-19 and applaud all frontline workers. We think our government has done a good job in terms of holding down the pandemic. We're not sure if a third wave is on its way, but whether it is or not, we still believe that people need to adhere to the COVID-19 regulations as best as possible. Continue to, the second phase of the Alliance COVID-19 campaign is to focus on adherence to the prevention and participation in mass vaccination campaign that has begun now, and on the 17th we understand the next batch of vaccinations will begin. I'm saying that it is an alliance campaign because we have agreed with our allies, both COSATU and the SACP, that we will work together on this as a campaign. Vaccines and treatment should be sourced from all available sources. This is the call we made to our government, including BRICS partners such as Russia and China, in conformity with our country's laws and regulations. An initiative by South Africa and India to fight for waiver and to waiver at the WTO to ensure equitable access to COVID vaccines, and support the role played by our president in as an AU champion on COVID-19, and to support our BRICS partners, India and Brazil, who are terribly hard hit. On the land reform and redistribution debate, we looked at the process of amending Section 25, which the ANC's view was it needs to be more explicit to make provision for the expropriation of land without compensation. Even though currently there is a law that allows you to expropriate land for public use, we believe that the Constitution itself needs to have that embodied in its wording. We reaffirmed our National Conference resolution that land reform must take place in a manner that strengthens the agricultural sector, improves economic growth, and significantly tackles inequality, poverty, and unemployment, and primarily land hunger in our country. The NEC received a report by a group of people that we had put together, led by Comrade Matthew Sposa, to look at very specifically the amendment and the wording on the amendment. I'm not going to go through that. I think it's quite technical. It's safe to say that our primary objective is to have an explicit way in which the Constitution is articulated. So that report is still, as you know, a matter of debate, will be a matter of debate in Parliament, and our MPs will participate. We will continue to look at how the debate goes and how we need to work with other political parties in order to strengthen what we want out of that debate. And a lot of what we got came from the public participation of people in various parts of the country. On local government, we still believe that we have to strengthen the concept of the district development model, which integrates government's service delivery from national, provincial, and local, instead of the current mechanism which separates local government as an entity from the other spheres of government formally in a very many different ways. And this has created blockages and also has in many ways not allowed us to meet our obligations to communities to deliver basic services, to ensure popular participation, and to drive local economic development. Empowerment of cooperatives and SMMEs, we spent a bit of time discussing that. It's a pity that those are the clips that were not leaked, unfortunately, just on a lighter note, because that was the much more content-worthy part of our 3 days together. We looked at the empowerment of youth and women and the promotion of more skills development to enable people to participate more directly in making local government a working entity. That we stress that all ANC members and structures must indeed ensure that as we prepare for BGMs and community meetings to elect candidates, we are deliberate in selecting candidates with the necessary capacities, experience, and skills, and who are really people who know what hard work means, and who will be able to service the people and practice all forms of ethical conduct. The NEC also stressed the importance of the principles of continuity, gender equality, and the representation of young people in the local government structures. I must say that the ANC Youth League now has a voice, very powerful voice of 2 women who attend the NEC meetings, and they were very vocal about the fact that there needed to be a much younger cadre of people who represented people in wards at local government level. On unity, renewal, and the state of the ANC, this NEC discussed in detail the state and cohesion of our organization. We noted with concern the continued factional divisions and divisive public pronouncements which make the impression of an organization in crisis. Fundamental to these challenges is the critical process of implementing the mandate of the 54th National Conference to build unity of principle in action, combined with the task of ensuring organizational and societal renewal. As you know, a portion of a clip that one of our provincial chairs that was making a statement is the only thing that resonated in the media over the weekend. Let me dispel the fact that he did not continue to talk about how the ANC is building itself from the ground up. So the clip that went out from Stan Matabati is was very, what do you call it, when people redirect a message. It redirected a message where he was trying to explain in the meeting the fact that it would appear that we are full of, disagreements and so on, and yet it is the ANC is the only political party that boldly goes to the Zondo Commission and puts itself out there and is asked questions and explains what it is doing and is accountable publicly in a manner that no other political party has done. The ANC is the only political party that is on the ground currently building back its structures, even though COVID had decimated our capacity to energize, but it didn't decimate the will of the members of the ANC to participate in the body of the organization. So our work is continuing, and the meeting welcomed the reports of organizing an election subcommittee in this regard, a very lengthy report, which was very detailed, and I don't think you want us to share that with you necessarily. Since the last NEC meeting, over 2,000 branch general meetings have been held, and regional conferences have started. Local structures and regions are also continuing the campaign against COVID-19. I just want to say that we don't on an everyday basis come to the media and say, we've now launched branch XYZ, or we've, this region, 2 regions in the Northern Cape were able to hold conferences over the weekend. And we would hope that at some point that would interest you, so that you know that there is an infrastructure at work that is beginning to build itself back. We are very committed to bringing the mandate of the 54th to restore the unity, renewal, and integrity of our organization, despite the very difficult and complex challenges of our current period. In the spirit of criticism and self-criticism, we reflected on our modus operandi and our conduct of NEC members, and most members and NEC members agreed to adhere to organizational protocols and practices, including the notion of collective leadership, that none of us in this ANC acts on our own. We take mandate from the National Working Committee, the NEC of the ANC. So none of us are able to, in fact, act independently. Everything we do comes from a mandate. We express concern about a concerted and well-resourced campaign to sow division and confusion in the ANC. And in this regard, we're referring very specifically to General Mudau, as well as RET forces, which is clearly just a faction, raising its head in the ANC throughout the country. But it is the kind of things that they say that are quite important to note. And the NEC mentioned these two in particular in our deliberations. We were concerned about the leaks and other issues that happened over the weekend. A very interesting clip, a very brilliant input was made by a former president of the ANC, Comrade Thabo Mbeki. That clip gave half a quarter of what he said and did not conclude what he talked about, which was the fact that we're a constitutional democracy, and what these detractors are trying to do is to shift the focus to a parliamentary democracy, which takes away the rights of people in so many different ways, and which reasserts what isn't what we wanted and where we started. And the criticisms that he leveled against these detractors in his speech were well-resourced criticisms, not based on emotional finanglings, but based on research and readings that he had done. The rest was left out. And the impression to the public is that Comrade Thabo Mbeki came and said that is the ANC still alive? He was asking a question that he answered in the debate. Very sad that we would be treated with such disrespect through leaks that then get published all over the place. So we did implement the step-aside decision of the ANC, and with great sadness, we had to agree to a temporary suspension, and I want to really emphasize this word, temporary suspension of the Secretary-General of the ANC. And the suspension will be reviewed from time to time, but it is entirely dependent on the court case that the SG is facing, and it was never only about the Secretary-General. There are numbers of other people in provinces, as well as another member of the NEC who has also been temporarily suspended. The unfortunate focus on one individual creates the impression that there was a focus on one individual. It wasn't like that. And it was exercising an ANC constitutional obligation, Rule 25.70. It exercised a resolution of the 54th Conference and several other ANC decisions that have taken place in the last year or so. We adopted terms and conditions that would cover what happens when a person is an office bearer, a member of parliament, a minister, an MPL, councillors, and so on, and what would happen to them not carry out the duties and responsibilities of their office, represent the organization publicly or in any other forum, make public pronouncements on matters relating to the organization, engage in mobilization of ANC structures, any other organizations or individuals during the step-aside period. A public representative may not occupy any executive office or other position of responsibility in the legislative body of caucus to which they belong. Similarly, the NEC confirmed that in light of the temporary suspension of the Secretary-General, the DSG, in accordance with Clause 16.9 of the ANC Constitution, carry out the functions entrusted to the SG by the National Conference, the National Council, and the NEC and the Working Committee. I want to make it very clear, I am not the Secretary-General of the ANC, nor am I an acting Secretary-General of the ANC. I'm the Deputy Secretary-General of the ANC, carrying out the functions as prescribed in Rule 16.9 of the clause of the ANC. The Secretary-General is temporarily suspended until the matters of his court case come to finality. I hope we all can understand that, because I've also listened to the media narrative that is rolling. And it's a very disempowering narrative, if I may say so. We also discussed the question of a letter of suspension that the SG had issued on the president of the ANC, and we agreed that there was no authority or mandate from any structure in the movement for such a decision to have been taken. The NEC agreed that such conduct was completely unacceptable and a violation of the rules, norms, and values of the ANC. We have been instructed to request the SG to apologize publicly to ANC structures and members within a set time frame. So if he fails to do so, the ANC will institute disciplinary procedures in accordance with the ANC constitution. We're confident that the SG will rise to the occasion and that he will follow the dictates of the ANC constitution. We discussed the ANC's two submissions to the State Capture Commission, of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture. I always get it wrong because that is what it's called. We believe that our president acquitted himself extremely well, answered the questions he was asked in a manner that was completely transparent and gave information that will assist the commission. Similarly, so did the national chairperson of the ANC, who acted as a Secretary-General of the ANC during the period under review. We were given an update, as I've already said, on BBGMs and so on. And we talked about local government elections. I want you to understand, as fellow South Africans, that we will be working incredibly hard to win every ward in the country. We're doing very well at the level of by-elections. Contrary to the view that the ANC is losing support, we find that we are actually gaining support in DA areas as well. We've taken 2 wards in the last by-election from the DA, for which we're very happy. We're looking at how we can have a National General Council, under what conditions, and how that would be managed practically, given COVID-19 rules and regulations. We will be giving a report to the next NWC as we go along, but clearly we have to look at the challenges that mitigate in favor or against us having a public NGC as we would normally have done in the past with 7,000 people attending. It might have to take a completely different form. We had a discussion about the Free State, and our priority there is to pursue a political solution. And the NEC had appointed Comrade Kgalema Motlanthe to lead talks in the province between the factions that were fighting. We seem to be making some progress in that regard. On the ANC Youth League task team, which has come into the media space for the wrong reasons, the NEC reverted to the fact that a person who is 35 years or older cannot be on the NYTT, and it's affecting approximately 6 people, and all of those 6 people will be requested to not participate in the NYTT, because that would be wrong, and that is being done by the NYTT as we speak. We're also verifying people's birth dates and all the many accusations that are flying around, so that we give the truth as it is, no matter how difficult it might be to swallow. We looked at what happened in Mpumalanga. There was a bit of violence, not a bit of violence, quite serious violence in April. A task team was set up, which I led, and I'd asked Comrade William Mkhize to continue with, to look at what causes the violence in that particular province. The work is ongoing. What we have agreed is that we will not stop this province from going to a provincial conference, and we will assist the Nkomazi sub-region, where it seems the real hotspot is, to overcome some of the factional issues that cause violence in the area. On the Northwest, let me just say that the NEC discussed quite a bit that the Northwest has experienced instability for too many years. Some of us could recall that this goes back 40 years, and that there is a grave impact on organization, governance, and service delivery. We are insisting that the IPC, the Interim Provincial Committee, must be allowed to continue to discharge its mandate. And we would hope that we can take this province as a matter of urgency to a provincial conference and elect leaders. However, we will continue to work with that province to undermine the consistent breakages that occur, the kind of rhetoric that doesn't seem to end. This is the 60th anniversary of MK, of Mkhonto weSizwe. We will be having in December, on December the 16th, a celebration to commemorate the 60 years. Just to remember that MK was set up, but not only by the ANC, but a combination of the alliance. It was MK, it was the ANC, SACTU, as well as the SACP that was involved in the running and the operations of MK. So it has to be a combined celebration of all of us. I think that's, I think also we discussed the questions of patriarchy and misogyny, not only in the ANC, but generally there seems to be an upward language problem, women being attacked in a very derogatory manner on Twitter, on Facebook. The general respect in terms of language usage against women seems to be much, much more negative in our society at large. And we've decided that we will continue and upgrade our work in terms of the gender-based violence, as well as femicide. We also discussed some of the matters that were raised by our allies, such as non-trading holidays for May Day, for Freedom Day and election days. We could not really make a determination on those because that is a matter that we have to ask the government to do the proper processes in NEDLAC and public hearings to consider. We talked about Mozambique, expressed concern for what is happening in the northeast corner of Mozambique. An analysis that we did make was some of the issues also relate to socioeconomic conditions and the poverty levels of people in that part of our continent. We looked at, we have a very good relationship with Sinn Féin, and we are supporting Sinn Féin's bid for a united Ireland. And there's a group of South Africans who is assisting Sinn Féin at the moment to look at how we could assist them. We discussed Cuba. We congratulated the new leader of the Cuban Revolution. We continue to work with Cuba and very grateful for the Cuban doctors who support us in our country, as well as the prospect of Cuban engineers who might be able to support us with some of our water difficulties. We discussed Palestine and the recent attack on the Palestinians outside of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the removal of people, and condemned the actions of the government of Israel in this regard. The NEC was closed by our president, who said, "We must remember that the trust and support of the South African people should never be taken for granted for as long as we are divided as a leadership, for as long as we fail to act against corruption, and unless we put the needs of our people first, we will struggle to restore the credibility of the ANC. The people of South Africa are looking to this leadership to provide direction, to decisively respond to the challenges in our country, and to accelerate the radical economic and social transformation of our society." Can I just repeat that? The president says, and to accelerate the radical economic and social transformation of our society. So there's no need for a faction to be making this call when it is a core call of the ANC. The NEC meeting has provided firm foundation for the work that we have to do. Our task now is to build on the progress we have made and fulfill the expectations of our people. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, DSG. We have got a WhatsApp line where other mediums that could not come here are allowed to raise their questions. So, Amos, you'll just consolidate all the questions that are coming on the WhatsApp line. Okay. You can start there. No, it's not a problem. It's me who's directing the meeting. Can you start, Juanita? No, wait. I'm coming to you. Can you start and ask? All of you are going to have a chance to ask.
Thank you very much. Second question from my side. The first question is, the statement says that the ANC Secretary-General period of time, what period of time that when should be apologized by. The second question that I have is related to local government elections. You say that the date has not been promulgated. Is that a suggestion that may shift given the circumstances that was the president also meeting? And then the third question that I had is just on the set-aside guidelines. There was a part in what the president did yesterday that said that people will step aside on full pay. I just want to know how will the ANC reconcile the rules of parliament and legislatures? Are people just going to have these extended holidays paid for by taxpayers? Thank you very much.
Okay. Bali.
Hi, DSTV, Bali from Newzroom Afrika. I just want to ask, we saw from the SG last week saying that he is appealing the decision for him to step aside. How far is that process? Can he even appeal the suspension, and who will it be handled by? And also, we also know that we've seen a number of your NEC members saying that the step-aside regulation or the resolution is being used to target the Secretary-General. If you can just add on to that. And my last question, we've heard from the President as well saying that there will be some sort of retreat. If you can just give us an indication of when can we expect this. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mbali. T.D. Madia from Eyewitness News. My colleagues have asked questions about the timelines regarding the suspended Secretary-General. I just want to find out, there is an issue around the appeal. When you look at Rule 25.70, it says it's a temporary suspension, and I think it's implemented based on protecting the image of the organization against the actions of an individual. In this case, obviously, Ace Mahashule. He says it's appealed. How does it work? Because it doesn't seem to allow for room to appeal, while the guidelines actually create room for that. I just want clarity on that. Can you ask for the overall number of people who were asked to step aside, who have stepped aside, who has been issued suspension letters? And my last one for now, the issue around the targeted campaign that you speak of. You mentioned the RET forces. You also mentioned former General Mojo Mutau. When did the ANC move from indulging the former general, because I understand it's met him before, to deciding it's part of a targeted campaign? Thank you.
Abongile Tumako, SABC News. Just to add on what my colleague Juanita asked about the Secretary-General in coming forth and making that apology, do we know yet how you guys expect him to make that apology? Does he call a press conference, does he write a letter to you and make an announcement? How? And then number two, with regards to the links that you made reference to, Madam Edward, the fact that it's a concern, I also read over the weekend that it's a concern to you, that you don't take action against those who are sort of doing this thing of taking this audio. Do you know who are those people who have done that? Has that thing, as far as the legal part of this concern, taken place? Thank you.
Okay, Gavin.
Thank you so much. It's Gavin from ENCA. I'd like to know whether the people that have voluntarily stepped aside are bound by the conditions of a temporary suspension. More directly, will people who have stepped aside voluntarily be allowed to contest for positions at regional and provincial conferences? To the Deputy SG, the elections are quite close, even if the date moves a bit, you can assume it's going to be held this year. Considering the evidence into on crucial areas where local government elections are held, such as Tshwane and Nelson Mandela Bay, where the candidate was defeated. What is the ANC's assessment of what this period is likely to result in at the polls?
Okay, there are questions here, DSG, that also came. Oh, okay.
I just want to ask, on the part of the ANC Youth League, the NYTT, I remember when they were being unveiled, or when they were being announced as the NYTT member team, there was a question coming from us in terms of, did you assure yourself, because sometimes they usually this tendency where people who are in the ANC Youth League are found to be above 35. And there was this direct question that was very specific. Did you ensure that this team that is here meets the constitutional requirements of the ANC constitution? And there was assurance on the part of the ANC leadership that no, everything is above board. But now, one is surprised when even more than 5 members, not one, are found to be overage in violation of that of the constitution. How did the process of appointing them, of selecting them take place such that they would even bypass that scrutiny? And how did you find out, like, way after months, after they were actually announced?
Thanks, DSG. There are a few questions as well coming from the WhatsApp line. Stembile from Bloomberg. Is there a particular reason why the timeline for the SG to apologize has not been stated? If not, how long does he have? Was anything decided on actions which will be taken?